Hello and welcome to the final episode of Overtime for NBL 25. And as the dust settles on the season and the championship for the first time in 24 years, the Illawarra Hawks, the fairy tale of last year, are champions this year. Peter Hooley, you can almost see your eyes watering there. An emotional week for you, it seems.
It's been incredible. I mean, the last few days to be there in Illawarra, we'll talk a bit about the game, obviously, but the atmosphere. You could see the emotion within the crowd. Our own Damon Lowry got very emotional in that game, and it seems fitting, right? The best team, the benchmark all season. They had a little dip maybe around round 5, but they were going to be the team to beat, and in the end, no one could do it, and it's a very well-deserved championship.
Emotional and drunk, easily interchangeable words there as well. Derek Rucker, you're in because we don't know where Damon Lowry's gone. We've got an air tag on him. It appears he's ripped that off and he's thrown it in the river, but we've got the next best thing.
Well, it was a great series, and it was a schizophrenic series with the away teams dominating over the first 4 games, but then Illawarra showed their true colors, and the offensive power that they displayed all season finally came through in the championship series Game 5, and they were clearly the better team.
Let's break this one down because they came out from the jump. At halftime, led by 10, the first half that they put together was absolutely fantastic and it set the tone for the rest of the game.
Well, it did, and then Melbourne United got off to the hottest start in the first quarter. Ian Clark was extra aggressive. Dave O'Hickey will spend a lot of time on him, but Melbourne United got out to the start you want in Game 5. A hostile environment, you know, it sold out in 60 seconds, so you knew the crowd was going to be ready for this, and then key moments, key bench guys in the first half especially, but the second quarter, I think it finished with that Todd Blanchfield 3, obviously, that got the crowd up and about. Key guys made big plays. They hung around. It was a tied first quarter. And you just felt, even after the first quarter, that this was in Illawarra's control. Even though they hadn't won at home, it just felt the way that game was going, they were going to have enough what it takes.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought there was a phase there where Melbourne United got up 20-10, and you just felt like they were executing in a manner that was going to help them be able to sustain a lead. But it's hard down there, and I'm so glad that you guys got to experience the atmosphere in Wollongong, and you get a better understanding of how difficult it is to win a game there. And Melbourne United, having won twice there, you would say the trend says that it wasn't going to happen a third time.
The craziest thing for me, Melbourne United coming off a Game 5 defeat in the championship last year, you would think that they were going to be hungrier than ever. But as you say, started off pretty well, but it was the effort stats, the rebounding that they were defeated in.
They just got pounded inside, and an area where I thought United struggled all season with their interior defense and their inability to score in the paint really shone through in this one. And Illawarra, whether it was dribble penetration, post-ups, whatever it was, back cuts, they took 57 shots in the paint in Game 5, Pete.
Oh, I'm looking at all in the interior. I mean, Lockie Ulbrich, we'll talk about him individually and other individuals, but you're right. They lived inside the paint, and they were doing extremely well of cutting off on the weak side. Everybody was moving for each other. And again, they just felt like they had that edge about them. And we'll have to break down Melbourne United, obviously, a bit later on in the show. But I felt like they lost this championship on Wednesday. With the chance for the closeout game, someone was going to have to win at home. The crowd, the way it was, they were going to have to win 3 times in the best team's venue. Mighty hard to do. And you have no doubt all of that would have been a mental, it's down the stretch. And that's why the Hawks got it done.
Do you think that carried over into Game 5, losing Game 4 at home?
It can't not. Let's be honest. It's human nature that it doesn't matter how small the seed is, that's going to be in there. But you saw they continued to swing late, but the game was over by this point because look at that. Tyler Harvey getting offensive rebounds. Dave O'Hickey was all over the glass. Trey Kell was all over the glass. They were just going to will their way to a title. And again, as I say, human nature. Not just the Game 4 at John Cain Arena, but what happened 12 months prior. Those little seeds, doesn't matter whether you're thinking about it or not in the moment, at some point in that game, you'd be thinking, man, we had a chance to win this when every key guy was out on our home floor and they couldn't get it done.
And that's right. And you look at this team and they celebrate and they were deserving. There's no better team or more deserving team than Illawarra. They dominated statistically throughout the season. They were the best shooting team. They were the highest scoring team. Points in the paint, rebounding, second chance points, all those key metrics, they won them.
Blue-collar team, Steel City beating the Blue Bloods in Melbourne United. The story of it was, and it just felt like it was meant to be, the performance of Will Hickey throughout this series. Now, we'll get on to the MVP stuff. There's a lot to discuss there, but just looking in isolation at his play, where he has gone to where he is now, it's time to stop with the whole fairy tale stuff. Oh, wow, X Factor this. He's a genuine star in this league now.
He is. And again, I think that comes from how hard he had to work to get these opportunities. And we know he started at the Phoenix, then had a stint at Melbourne United. Even his little stints prior to this series with the Hawks, well, he's shown that he's more than capable of taking on this responsibility. But the learning, the growth in this championship series especially. I look at a couple of the games in the Phoenix series as well against them. His poise down the stretch wasn't there. He was a little erratic. To learn in the emotional, tense nature of a championship series, Game 4, his poise down the stretch, to have that maturity in the clutch throughout a series, to gain that, which it wasn't there early on against the Phoenix in Game 1 and 2, to find that and understand that you can be a dominating force, which he was, that is huge. And again, he's set for a massive rest of his career. That confidence you play with, you can't turn that off. Now that he talks about no one believed in him, he had to believe in himself. Now everybody believes in him. He's going to go to another level yet again.
And in Games 2 and in Games 4, when I thought they went with the same matchup, Melbourne United, putting a big on him in isolated situations late in the game. And he struggled at times earlier in the series, but he figured it out. If you look early in the series, he was able to get his hips by the big man, but he didn't know what to do. He was indecisive. He was apprehensive. In Games 4 and 5, he figured that out. He was finishing, and I love his skill set. I always tell my players when I'm working with them and developing them, if you can't be athletic, be awkward. If you have both, he's awkward and athletic, you're a real problem.
And again, that Game 4 is the one that stands out to me. I went back and looked at the fourth quarter, and you talk about he's trying to make some plays in transition, even against bigs. And instead of forcing anything or coming to a jump stop, if it wasn't there, he just kept dribbling it out. It's the Steve Nash dribble. Okay, I'm just going to explore it. I get back to the top of the key. I'll set everything up, take a deep breath. That's the maturity that he gained throughout that as a clutch player. And that's why he had a dominating performance.
And the other thing is he started to make enough of the three ball
You have to worry about it.
Just to make them honor the fact that he may raise up at any point, and that stroke looks mechanically good. It's only going to get better over time. And as you said, Felix, this isn't just a cup of coffee. This guy's a legitimate star in the league now, and he is only going to grow in confidence and performance in the seasons to come.
A moment that'll live in infamy in Australian sports history was the moment that Matthew Dellavedova just showed everything that this game is about, everything that sportsmanship is about. And if you were surprised that he came out with this action, then you probably have never met the bloke. Handing over his MVP award, which in my opinion, he fairly earned throughout the series, to Will Hickey, who, you know what, it's the tough with the voting system, and we'll discuss that. But just on that stage, in that moment, to go ahead and do that was a very, very special thing. And you look at the voting here right now. We'll discuss on how maybe this can be improved. But across the games, Pete, it did look like Dellavedova was the most consistent.
Yeah, again, I think in the moment you could tell from the Illawarra fans that they thought it was something that was voted on right then and then. And Derek, you're on the panel, obviously. I like the game-by-game voting because otherwise you can get caught in... You try and look at other series and see how it would have worked. In recency bias, you could potentially do that because Trey Cow had a great series too. I know he was injured. So the recency bias could play a role in things if you're voting at the end. I like the game by game. I think it gives you a true representation of who's been the best player all series. I think an easy fix could be as simple as only the winning team's going to win it. So if you are losing, take that. You take all the Melbourne United guys off that, and whoever's the leading Illawarra Hawks. Or you can, if it's hard, but you can have the discretion side of it. Okay, if there's a moment like this, Hickey was runner-up by a couple of votes, we'll probably give it to him. But I think it's as simple. Dean Vickerman said it too. If you don't win, and again, I put this on credit to Delhi. That's all Delhi is his class. But he wouldn't want this. He wouldn't want the trophy. You do not want to be an MVP on a losing team because no matter what happens, you're thinking, I didn't do enough to help my team win a title. So that's the only end goal, is to win a title. And because we didn't do that, none of us can be seen as the most valuable player. I think that's what across the board, all players would agree.
I agree. And it would be a hollow award for Dellavedova to win in this manner. But look here. One of the reasons why it was set up this way, the system's been set up this way, is due to the lack, or in the past, the lack of media members who followed the game closely and who had the expertise. Now NBL media has evolved to a level where we have at least a dozen qualified people to help vote on this award. What I would recommend is keep the same system so that the 5 panelists vote game by game throughout the course of the series, but in the lead up to the conclusion of Game 5, bring in the other media members and they cast their vote and give weight to each pool, and then we come up with a winner. Now, you're right. This is an anomaly this year.
It's rare.
It has worked by and large. It's been foolproof, but this year it didn't work. And given the extra scrutiny now in the NBL, we all come under fire.
On that note as well, it was handled beautifully by Matthew Dellavedova. One thing I didn't like from the overall crowd. Now, I'm happier than anyone, maybe not happier than Damon Lowry, that Illawarra won this game, was going for them during the series, that fairy tale story. But the booing of Chris Golding as he went up, the losing team, I thought that was a little bit classless, and the booing of Matthew Dellavedova. The Delhi stuff, I can understand a little bit. They were booing the award rather than the actual thing. But the booing of the losing team, I've been to a lot of grand finals, across a lot of sports, and I've never seen the losing team's captain booed like that.
Well, this happened in Tasmania last year with Dellavedova, where he was booed every time he touched the ball. And I mentioned in the broadcast last season, I didn't understand it. This is one of the great icons of Australian sport, in particular Australian basketball. I don't know what he's done in terms of his style of play. He is perfectly symptomatic of what Australian basketball is about. And same thing with Chris Golding. This is a guy who's played the game the right way. He's been a fantastic ambassador around the world. I didn't get the booing. And there's a place for it within the game, maybe, but let it be in response to something.
In the game's different, and I'm with that too, because
but
again,
outside is crazy.
John Cain Arena, that was loud. They were booing the Hawks too. When you go to the Red Army, everyone picks players, and we know the Hawks are going to get stuck into Chris Golding. They were doing it all game. Between the minute they start warming up and again, if that was in game 3, and you're going to keep booing as they walk off, I understand that the series is still going. But once you've got the ultimate goal. Your champions is well deserved. You've reached the pinnacle. That's where it's like, okay. And again, all players are going to be ultra competitive. They're going to be trash talking. But you watch, every player is going to shake the hands of every other player, because it all comes down to a respect thing at the end. I didn't like that either. And I know that's going to be a very general consensus.
And it's outside of the Illawarra. We're not talking about the Illawarra Hawks organisation thing. I think it was just a passion moment that went a little bit overboard for me. But I just didn't like it, though. But the Illawarra Hawks themselves, as an organisation, have been fantastic since winning and doing all of that. So absolutely no issue there. But let's focus in on the Stars right now. And we'll stick in on Trey Kell. Of course, no game 4 for Trey Kell, but I tell you what, he was the worst nightmare for Melbourne United coming back into this one.
Picked his moments. And again, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Justin Tatum to bring him off the bench. Now, you could easily throw him back in the starting lineup, and he looked like a guy who was at 100%. We were questioning whether he'd be at 100% because of that knee. He was moving well. He was getting to his spots, and he's one of those guys who can really start to fill it up quickly. Bring him off the bench. He found his spark, and he was more than just enormous in this game. Picked up when they needed guys to tick the scoreboard over, alongside Hickey, the duo in the backcourt. Unbelievable.
We had 26 points, 11 boards, 7 assists, and we could have never fathomed that would have been his level of productivity. But I think he may have learned something also, the value of adrenaline. He was hobbling in pregame. He wasn't moving that well, but then when they tipped the ball up and when he got out there on the floor, he looked like normal Trey Kell. And again, he was always going to be a matchup problem for Melbourne United. But when you couple him with Dave O'Hickey and the increase in confidence that Hickey had, and then you had Kell out there, and then that allowed a free rein for Tyler Harvey, who didn't play spectacularly well, but who did enough. Well, he was good enough.
And he's a bigger body too. So Justin Tatum's in the luxury where he can sit there and say, you know, I can play Hickey, Kell and Harvey together, and they're all interchangeable. They don't have any massive wings on Melbourne United who are going to post up, who are going to be a mismatch in that. So Justin Tatum was a masterstroke again, but just to bring him off the bench and say, hey, we won game 4. I want to keep Hickey's confidence up. Hickey got off to an extremely hot start. And that's why he's the coach of the year.
When Sam Froling went down, a lot of people wrote off the Hawks and said they're done here, but they forgot conveniently about Lockie Ulbrich, who stepped up. And again, this guy is one of the league stars of the league, except he's so painfully unselfish that sometimes we don't see it. But the matchup nightmare that he caused for Melbourne United went a long way to winning this game.
The composure beyond his years is what really surprised me on this big stage, and it started in Game 4, Pete. He did a great job off of some of the on-ball situations when they made that run at Melbourne United, and then defensively, his mobility actually, I thought, helped Illawarra in Game 5 with not only the way he was able to draw attention to him defensively and kick the ball out, but in the short rolls, in the pick and pop. And he put some really nice one-on-one ISO moves on the Melbourne United bigs. I thought the Melbourne United bigs couldn't move laterally with him.
No, they couldn't. I mean, you just look at some of those highlights as well. And I thought that the Hawks actually rolled it in and played off Ulbrich more than they did Froling in the first 3 games of the series. They're two vastly different bigs the way they go about it, but you see the first thing that Ulbrich wants to do, he wants to face up, and he gets crafty. He's got a nice spin move. He's got unique footwork. You talk about being awkward with it. He's very awkward with it, but he's under control, and he just picked the big men apart. Whether it was Marcus Lee, he used his size. Whether it was Rob Lowe, he used his agility. And he's a dead-set star. And I'm glad that he had that breakout performance. We all spoke about who was going to take the jump in the off-season. And we mentioned Lockie Albright, but probably didn't put him up as high as he needed to be. He got the chance when Sam Froling went down. And he's so young. He's got a massive career ahead of him.
And he was playing on a team that is such a star-studded backcourt that he's not really required to go out there and offensively produce. If he was on a team that, you know, relies on him, a la a Brisbane Bullet style thing that replies sort of how they went to Josh Bannon, this kid would be an absolute superstar in this league.
And Pete, you've played on a star-studded championship team. You know how difficult it is to find your role and make a valuable contribution. It is a very difficult thing to do, but he's figured it out at a very young age. And when you're scouting him and evaluating him for more levels, the upper level, dare I say, the NBA, one of the shining things that came out of that was his ability to pass the ball from different circumstances, off the short roll. He even threw a nice lead pass to Dan Greta in transition. And then he had 2 nice cross-court passes to open three-point shooters, and that's valuable.
But you've got to give credit here to Justin Tatum as well, because, again, to be able to preach that and instill within Lockie Albright, hey, we might need you more than I'm going to normally play you at some point along this postseason, for whatever reason. And the other side of it is you might just play 10 to 15 minutes, but if I need you to be ready. And he was. No one could have expected Sam Froling to go down, which is a horrible injury. He's one of the brightest stars we have in Australia, one of the best big men, about to be a free agent. All the hype about Sam Froling is real. But to have Albright ready for that moment and to take it with both hands and play like a veteran with that kind of confidence, that goes back to a coach instilling that confidence from day one of this season.
The other thing I like about him physically is you can see his heaviness when he hits other people. You can see the Melbourne United bigs didn't like the impact that he created. He's kind of like, you know, that, again, we use the word awkward, but he throws his weight around and you feel his presence out there in the paint.
Well, is this going to be a one and done for the Hawks today? Going to be able to run it back and create a dynasty? Let's have a look at their roster heading into the off-season right now. Contracted, I love the look of that. There's 3 big names on that I'm very, very happy to keep. Well, 4 big names on that they'll be very happy to be keeping. But from that free agent list, Pete, who is the most important they need to contain?
Well, I mean, Justin Tatum spoke about ideally you'd want to try and run it back with the same crew. Sam Froling, they say 6 to 9 months of how long he's going to be out. The talk was that he was going to re-sign with the Hawks. I'm still trying to get that done as soon as possible. Trey Kell. I mean, it's Trey Kell to see what he can bring. He's an all-NBL first teamer. Not only did he finish with that stat line, but you want to keep as much of that core to carry over. And then you might have to add another piece. Because remember, every time a team wins, Tassie won, Sydney wins, everyone else is going to come and try and beat that team. So you want to try and add maybe another couple of pieces here, but they're in a good spot if they can get that done.
What do you do with Sam Froling? It's not a full Achilles rupture. It's a partial. It's 6 to 9 months, which is better than what people were expecting. That would have him available for NBL 26. Where do you sit, Rucker? Do you take the gamble and you roll with him? Because he's not cheap.
It's reminiscent of a few years ago in the NBA when Klay Thompson went down. And he was coming out of contract, and the Warriors went ahead and in good faith gave him an extended contract. I think you do the same with Sam Froling. He's going to be a part of your organization, and actually it takes away the possibility to some extent of him going away this offseason and never coming back. This is such an unfortunate moment right here for Sam Froling because he was playing well and he's entering the prime of his career. He's still got plenty of growth, and with sports science now, guys come back from these injuries all the time and perform and don't show any decline in their performance.
I mean, we saw Jack White and then DJ Vasiljevic. We've seen guys who have big Achilles injuries bounce back. He'll be one of those. I actually think it's going to make other teams as well not so much bat an eyelid, understand, hey, it's 6 to 9 months. We know what you can be. We know what you're capable of if you're going to leave Illawarra. But I still think the Illawarra Hawks is going to be more reason for them to get around and say, hey, our offer doesn't change. We want you back. You're going to be our cornerstone for the next foreseeable future. Let's get it done.
That's enough serious. The Illawarra Hawks are champs. Let's jump into right now. It ain't no cupcake league. One of the best segments of the year.
Last week was good.
Last was very good. It was very good. Let's kick this one off. We have a surplus this week. Plenty. I think we're rolling with 3 each on this one, so I'll kick it off. Now, it's AFL time at the moment, and there are some fantastic journalists in AFL, but we always hear, oh, they have a basketball background, all this sort of stuff. I love Riley Beveridge. He does a fantastic job, and I often read anything that he writes. But this one right here, you might know the phrase from your local weeknight basketball league, but increasingly, it's a term that's been adopted within the vernacular of AFL clubs, in particular within their analytics teams. Now, you guys have played a lot of basketball. Have you ever heard anyone say, work the arc, work the arc, work the arc?
What is that?
The Ark, man. You know the Ark. Noah. Noah.
I think it has more relation to Noah than it
It's
would
the
mean.
Bible. It's from the Bible.
I love Riley Beveridge does a fantastic job though, but he's tripped up there. Speaking of tripping up.
Damn.
Now this has multiple layers. Sometimes you just forget afterwards that the cameras keep on rolling. Pete. Ooh, hey, there goes my man. And you know what? Sometimes in times like this, you find out who your friends are. Because let's roll that just one more time. And let's have a look at Leonard Copeland. Did he rush to your help?
No, I think he ran to you,
Or did he sit and laugh with me?
No one. I was down for the count too. I thought there might have been a wide angle coming. Geez, 3 replays? Didn't he? 3 replays?
Well, as you sitting like Peter Griffin going, for about 30 minutes after that. We couldn't walk out of here. Now, Bryce Cotton, of course, announced today that he's departing the Perth Wildcats, but it appears that no one told NBL HQ because when you look towards their website, he's on every goddamn team. Something happened this morning.
There was a glitch in the matrix.
There was a glitch in the matrix, and if you went to the NBL website, Bryce Cotton, not only did he get bigger and smaller for each team, Southeast Melbourne appear to be getting Jordan Crawford-sized
Wow.
Bryce Cotton.
How's the Jack
He
Cummins
popped
running
up
an
on
NFL
every
team?
single team. Someone panicked and said, "What? He's leaving or he's staying?" Oh God, Pete, take it over. That's enough from me.
Well, again, my biggest fear now in the championship ceremonies, grand final ceremonies, we've seen it in the AFL circles. It is important. You've always got to shake the hands of whoever's giving you. It's always normally a little kid does it. And if there's a handover of a hat,
Oh no,
we've got to make sure all of these. I'm not sure if you caught this in the moment. So Justin Tatum gets his ring. You've still got your hat, man. Coach. She wants her hat.
Oh, she's so upset.
He gave it to Tyler Harvey, who it got back to her in the end. She's looking for it. But come on, you got to give her the hat. That's the one thing they're looking forward to. He was caught up in the moment.
Jack Heverin just sitting back there and laughing at the situation. You should have stepped in, Jack.
Now, again, we had some fun. We had a great crew down there in Illawarra. But our great man, Brad Rosen, there's a key thing when it comes to the technical side of broadcast. One thing matters is making sure that everything is plugged in. Now, this was him doing a live cross. If you can see the cord on the headphones, they're not plugged into anything. You got to have it plugged in, Brad. What are you listening to with that stuff?
That just sums up Matty Russell and Brad Rosen. They're talking. It doesn't matter if anyone else is coming at you.
And
as
then,
well.
Ruck, I got one more.
Oh, no.
Now, our fearless leader very rarely makes mistakes. Very rarely. Now, a lot
Andrew
of things,
goes.
we rehearse things too. So things should go relatively smooth. It's important when you use props to get it right. So we're talking about being on the front of the Herald Sun, and he's got it upside down. We rehearsed it right. We had it all perfectly, and he had it upside down off the top.
If people knew what was on the other side of that newspaper, they'd understand why I was so nervous to make sure that it wasn't that side of the paper.
Hey, full credit to you guys. You did a great job. You were alert. You did everything that was required.
I don't trust you in these
Suck up.
segments.
What are you talking about? Everything's fine. But hey, Game 5 down in Illawarra. Okay, you're enjoying the game. You may be a little bit nervous as a former Hawks player. You're sitting with our guy, Damon Lowry, and you say, okay, maybe I'll duck off to the concession stand and get myself a burger. Unfortunately, that burger puts you right to sleep.
No way.
No way. Melvin Thomas in the house having a little nap at Game 5.
It was too loud for surely. How? It was incredibly loud. That's
Man,
wild.
geez, sometimes you eat the wrong cookie, man.
Incredible, incredible. Now,
This is the last cupcake of the year.
I know it's the last one, and I have great sympathy for our guys that struggle to shoot the basketball. For some of us, it came easily, Pete,
What, to struggle or shoot?
to shoot.
Oh, struggle.
Our guy, Marcus Lee, sustained a shoulder injury and had to go to the free throw line. And oh my God, we are going wide right. Pete, I've never seen anything like that in my life.
It was a pinch nerve, right? And as soon as he got fouled, I was worried. We were all sitting there. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, this is going to be... I thought he was going to go granny style. And again, credit to him because he shot the lefty and nothing but net on the reshoot of that lefty.
We're trying to grow the game, and all my boys are at the pub down at College Lawn, and he shoots that. Come on, Marcus Lee. In the words of the great Andrew Gaze, turn it up. We can't have any more of that. Let's hit the rim next time. We got plenty more coming up. Melbourne United, Bryce Cotton. Plenty to talk about.
The talent in this league is crazy. Look at the champions. Look at the champions, Illawarra Hawks. They're going to break the drought from 2001.
From day one, you said it, pal. You did. Day one, and everybody laughed at me, Coach. Yes, who you think gonna win? And they laughed at me. They did. Guess who got the last laugh now? Me, the Joker, the last laugh, the maniacal laugh.
Well, now the kids are crying. Thanks for doing that one down the camera now. Damon Lowry, fantastic selection there, but we do conveniently leave out that he had the runners-up not making his top 6, I believe, towards that. But fantastic. We laughed at him at the beginning, but now, as he said, I believe the maniacal last laugh that he gets.
And good luck to wherever he is. I mean, he's still on a high, as he should be. He did predict it. Some of these other predictions we conveniently forget about, but he did predict them winning.
He also told us, and I'll say this because he's not here, that there is no way that Bryce Cotton leaves the Wildcats. Well, at least I think he said something along those lines. And we saw on Instagram, well, unfortunately, Bryce Cotton is on his way out from Perth. Is he on his way out from the NBL? We're not entirely sure yet. There's a couple of teams potentially vying for his job, but it looks like he's gone. Well, definitely gone from the Wildcats.
And a very poignant post by Bryce Cotton. Well done. But I don't know about you, Pete, but it was quite emotional. I felt a sense of sadness, a sense of loss. And even if he remains in the NBL with another team, there's still a loss to the legacy, I feel. I'm romantic like that. I hope that players, when you're this great, that you stay with one team. But it's not going to be. And we just kind of have to take what is and move on with it.
What a legacy he left in Perth, though. I mean, 8.5, 9 seasons, 5 MVPs, championships, 8 scoring titles. Like, this is one of one. And again, you sit here and just reflect, and it's been a privilege, one, to try and play against him, but 2, to be able to analyse, break him down week in, week out, and then trying to do your job as we do as commentators, whilst just sitting back and marvelling as being a fan. There's only a certain few in this league who make us feel like that. He is one of those. So the next move is interesting. And again, we'll talk about what it means for the Wildcats, because it's not all doom and gloom for the Wildcats. But yeah, I'm not sure. I did notice, and we overanalyze everything. We like to do that. That's part of it. But he didn't say thank you or goodbye or anything to the NBL in that caption.
And that was very interesting. But when you look at his legacy, I have Andrew Gaze as the greatest scorer in NBL history. But when you talk about the best shot creator and the best shot maker of all time and the most exciting scorer of all time, that's Bryce Cotton.
My worry for this, and not a worry, but the annoyance with it is that there's 2 players in this league that when you think of the NBL, you think of them. You've got Chris Goulding in Melbourne because it's a really big market. Unfortunately for Sydney, they don't really have one yet because no one's really stuck the course out there. They've had some really good imports, but they've come and gone. Bryce Cotton was that guy when there's kids running all around the stadium. They can replace him. They can get a couple of players for his price tag. The Perth Wildcats will be fine. But all the people running around the stadium in those Cotton jerseys, that's what I want in the NBL. At Melbourne United games, it's CG43. They've all got the jerseys. Every club needs a superstar. Tyler Harvey is becoming that for the Illawarra Hawks, where you buy that jersey and you know that that's good for the next 5, 10 seasons' time. That's my main worry with this.
And Olgun's been reporting on everything. Again, we've been on this since, round 3? And again, we were alluding to it, and we caught some flack saying that it looks like he might be out the door at Perth. But I kind of sense that the change of scenery was going to be inevitable because he's going to be 33 later in this year. If he's going to, 1, cash in an Asia offer, which is going to be huge and well-deserved, he can recoup some money that he's probably left on the table from the last few years. He's arguably still entering his prime. Like, he's playing that good a basketball. But 2, it's kind of like, okay, if I'm going to make the move, I'm going to do it now. His next deal is not going to be a 1-year deal. It's going to be a multi-year deal. When he's got a young family, that next situation could very well be where it settles down for the next decade. And what that is, I'm not sure. I know Olgun did report that he thinks that Melbourne United have pulled out of the race or are not going to pursue him. I've heard the Brisbane Bullets keep popping up as a potential suitor for him, although we'll talk about who they're going to go at as well. But I still think there's a bit of a smokescreen there around Melbourne United. I'm not completely going to rule it out. Until he's signed and announced where he's going, I'm not ruling out another move to the NBL because of the magnitude of his life and where he's going. I still think it could be a possibility.
The bottom line quickly, he's just played his best season of professional basketball, and he's as hot as he can be right now. The international market is wide open for him.
But on that, again, I know the links to Japan and Trev. I completely understand that, and it does look like that's probably the most likely thing. They play 60 games. Bryce plays harder and longer than anyone else in this league, especially over the last 7 to 8 years. He's playing 40 minutes a game. He's getting completely harassed defensively. Add another 30 games, double that season. He's going to be paid, obviously, very handsomely for it. But that's another side of it too, moving the whole family to Japan. That's why I'm not ready to completely rule out a stay in the NBL.
Now, a mitigating factor is that the league won't be as hard for him. he'll go over there and he will destroy Japan.
He'll destroy wherever he goes.
Yeah, but they won't be as physical. It won't be as taxing as the NBL is.
But sorry, I'm just going to keep going. What makes me nervous for this, and you would like this too, you'd appreciate it, but that Channel 10 interview where he said, no, I will not be going anywhere. Anytime I hear that from a pro sportsman, I'm just like, ooh, I don't know.
It's like with a coach. As soon as they get full support of the board, they are out the door next week. But Bryce Cotton, it's just, look, I wouldn't want to see him go to Melbourne United.
No.
And look, I'd love to see him go there because we're at a lot of Melbourne United games because we live here and we get to see him a whole lot. But you can't go from Perth to Melbourne. You can't go from good to bad, bad to good. You just can't flip between them. There's a good rivalry between these teams. It's like in the AFL. You don't go from Collingwood to Carlton. You muddy the waters there a little bit when you do that. So I would love to see him maybe go and play a couple of years in Asia and then come back to the Perth Wildcats. I want him to keep going with the Wildcats.
That'd be plausible as well, right? To go over cash in Japan or wherever it is and then come back and play. But the Melbourne United one, if it did eventuate, that's largely around Dean Vickerman. He fully respects Dean Vickerman. He loves what Dean Vickerman is as a coach. So I still see, I'm trying to look through a smokescreen, see what could potentially pop up. But until he's signed, I'm not ruling out hope that he's going to stay in the NBL.
Stop smoking. Melbourne United, let's talk about them because they are 2 possessions away over the last couple of years from being 2-time champions. But alas, as Damon Larry, if he was here, would say, if my mother was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Or I don't. No. Fifth? It's not if my mother was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. It's his mother used to say, if I were a fifth, we'd all be drunk. You know what? I've actually butchered that. But so have Melbourne United the past 2 championships. So let's have a look at their roster right now. Pete Hooley, please take the wheel.
Yeah, they've got a lot of gaps to fill, much like your punchlines. And again, they've got to figure out what they want to do. Because the key right now is we're going to talk about it's Delhi and Ian Clark. They're the main 2. I fully expect Shea Lee to be there. You know how important he is for their success going forward. You've got Golding, you've got Krebs, and you've got Dash Daniels. Now, Dash Daniels is a key piece to watch. I think that player option we picked up by Jack White, we find that out going forward. But this is the key. You talk about them being the back-to-back championship series. In the end, they've got nothing to show for it. Like, that's the harsh reality of pro sports. There's a champion and there's 9 teams that don't win a championship. So how do you cross over that line? Chris Golding will be 37 this year. Delhi will be 35. Ian Clark just turned 34. So I fully expect Shea Lee to be back there. Then it becomes very interesting. I don't see a world where Matthew Dellavedova and Ian Clark are both back there. Ooh. I know Delhi has very, very strong interest from the Sydney Kings and very strong interest from the Brisbane Bullets. I know he wants a long-term deal as well. He played very well, be deserving of it. He was massive in the championship series. He had a pretty good regular season. Are they going to run it back?
You miss his leadership, but the reality is, and this isn't necessarily a dig at Delhi, they've got to get younger in the backcourt. Yeah. We saw it in games 4 and 5. They just didn't have the foot speed to go with Illawarra. Illawarra looked like the fresher team. They had more bounce. And one of the ways you can fix that up is getting younger in the backcourt. Maybe you go and you extend Flynn Cameron because he's a guy I felt could have gotten more minutes. Again, I thought if they bled him in last season's championship series, maybe he was ready for more minutes this season. But somehow you've got to get younger, but you can't go too young and lose experience for moments like this.
When you talk about going too young there, of course, Dash Daniels, one of the most touted next stars coming into this league for a long time. We see what Dyson's doing, and from all reports, they always say it, oh, the little brother's better. And, you know, what are we going to see? But he is still going to be very, very young in this league. And especially for the first half of the season, there's always a bit of nurturing that has to take place. Is he the youth they're looking for? Is he going to be good enough from day dot to provide that experience?
I think we're probably looking at 15 to 20 minutes from Dash Daniels next year. As you said, I think he just turned 17 this year. Yep. So there's still going to be a lot of that growing and maturing. That's the beauty of the Next Stars program. The Flynn Cameron one, it's all going to come down to the domino of Delhi. That's free agency in general. So wherever Delhi falls, because there's other teams that are interested, the Phoenix as well, but it seems Brisbane and Sydney, the other 2 frontrunners outside of Melbourne United. But the youth is a key thing. They are right there. They're knocking on the door. The other side of that is what pieces do they really need to go and load up at? And it's going to have to be some sort of dominant big.
And look, on the Delhi situation specifically, if I'm Brisbane, I'm making him a Godfather offer. He cannot refuse it. And then once I get him there, he's never leaving. I'm getting him there. I'm setting him up after he retires. He can run my front office. But that is the level of character and expertise that Brisbane need to bring into that program if they want to reach the next level.
How do they help Chris Golding? Because we said it a couple of times throughout the year. The knock on them at the beginning was, where's that alpha post game? Now, many games throughout the series, Throughout the semi-final series, he saved them with his brilliance. Throughout the regular season, he won a lot of games off his own bat. He had one of his best seasons ever at the ripe old age of damn near 37, I believe it is. Where does the help come from? Does it come from Ian Clark? Do you find a way to repay him? Does Dash Daniel step up, or do you have to go elsewhere to find another guy? Because right now, it was live by the sword, die by the sword with CJ43.
He actually had some very good looks as well. He probably had the cleanest looks throughout the series. He takes a very contested shot in that compared to other of the 4 games. But to me, it's very simple. It's a dominant interior presence at the 5 spot. The 5s they had, Rob Lowe and Marcus Lee, didn't offer that. And you look at the Illawarra Hawks in this game, when they kept rolling into Albrick, you have to worry about what Albrick is. You've got to think, this was a guard-orientated Melbourne United offense where Wani did a terrific job, but they were just having to worry about around the arc, as Riley Beveridge likes to call it, but they were just following the 3-point line because it didn't matter. The ball never rolled inside where if you're guarding Chris Golding, you have to think, am I having to hedge down at this one-on-one in the block? Am I having to try and get on help side to help out a guy who's going one-on-one in the block? If you actually broke down the amount of times they threw it in to anyone on the block and said, hey, go and get a bucket, you could probably do it on one hand in that series. They didn't have that one-on-one post-player dominant, which they had with JLA there. Yeah. Even Hook Porty, but they used him sparingly. I think that's that key piece because that's going to open up the floor to your knockdown shooters. And they got absolutely smashed on the boards by the Hawks, especially in Game 5. Look at that, plus 20.
Credit to the Hawks, man. Undermanned. This is an effort stat for the most part. Rebounding, especially offensive rebounding, Derek, you know it more than anyone, is an effort-based stat. For a team that was coming off a loss in Game 5 the previous year, I was amazed that the Hawks were able to out-hunger them in this one.
Especially with the loss of Sam Froling. So you would have thought the pendulum would have swung in the favor of Melbourne United. But the other key person in that offense was Jack White. He was inconsistent in the postseason with his offensive productivity. And as we look at White there, 10.4 points per game. That is not what he was brought here to produce. He should be a 16, 17 point per game player. And in the playoffs, you got to lift your productivity then. And then the free throw shooting. I don't want to harp on it too much because it was such an uncomfortable thing to watch a player go through. But to shoot it at 31%, and when you go through that as a player, it affects your aggression in the half court. It affects your ability to put the ball on the deck and try and get to the rim.
The lack of aggression they got out of Jack White was a bigger problem overall for the season. There really wasn't anything on the low block that they could go to.
And that's the key, right? Jack White, I thought, had a very, very good season. He had some moments. I mean, that game where he didn't attempt a shot was bad, but largely this is what they were doing when they threw it into the post. It was, okay, we're going to play out a bit, and it's a lot easier to try and defend that over the course of a 5-game series. You can get away with it in a regular season. You've got new opponents. The scouting's different. But Rob Lowe was off to a slow start in the series. Marcus Lee was very, very good. Didn't miss a shot for the first 2.5 games. But a lot of that was just dump-offs. Even right here, that dump down or that cheating from Will Hickey, he doesn't have to do that because Rob Lowe didn't go anywhere. They're not one-on-one shot makers, shot creators in the post. Every other team has that interior dominant prospect offensively. They didn't have that. I think they need to go and get one.
And I think Dean Vickerman was forced to play all his bigs, whereas Justin Tatum had the luxury of saying, you know what, Darius Days, this game isn't for you. You sit this game out. He barely played in Game 5, whereas Dean Vickerman just had to continue to play guys who weren't necessarily performing. And then in Game 5, he decided to go small ball, which is not something that United had done successfully throughout the season.
If my mother was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. I don't think anyone has butchered a saying more than that. And with that, all thanks to basketball.com.au. We will see you very shortly. Welcome back to NBL Overtime. What is making news? All thanks to basketball.com.au. Let's kick it right off here because the biggest news of the week, the attempted hostile takeover. It was reported of the NBL by Jared Navalny, of course, the Illawarra Hawks owner. This one was very, very interesting, and Larry Kesselman came out and knocked this down immediately in no uncertain terms. The NBL is not for sale. We remain fully committed to the continued and unprecedented growth and success of the NBL, and I repeat, the NBL is not for sale. Now, I understand, Derek, you've been around this league for a long time. You've been around this league for a long time. Some people might have come in recently and thought, there's some things that could change, this or that. May we remind them of not that long ago, this league was on its absolute knees, getting ready to go defunct. we'd all be out of a job, and one man had a vision and deep, deep pockets and was not afraid to lose money to make that happen. Now, the wording, it's above my pay grade, the ins and outs of all this sort of particulars, but some of the wording in that original email that got leaked was quite disrespectful, in my opinion, to what Larry Kesselman has done over the last 10 or so years for this league, which I repeat, was on its knees and almost defunct. The money that was lost and all of that, I frankly, just from a pub test level, it was disrespectful and totally unwarranted.
I mean, we mentioned it right on the back of Game 5. And I came out of college 2015, 2016 and got to sign my first deal. I thought I was with the Townsville Crocs. Went to bed in New York, woke up and my agent said there's no such thing as the Townsville Crocs. They've folded. I said, what's left? And he said, to be honest, the NBL's about to fold.
They still got a rugby team.
So you've got to go to Europe. So I went over to Europe and now I fast forward 10 years later and we're seeing all this thriving going on. And again, it's easy for us to talk about it. We've been harping on about how the league is flying. But as our great friend Corey Homicide Williams said, men lie, numbers lie, women lie, numbers don't. And you look at the numbers, 55 sellouts in the regular season. The people are showing up. The people love the hoops. They love the NBL. Over 30% broadcast reach in audience. That's going up. We've got the NBA team for the first time coming down to Australia to play against the NBL. Everything is going in the right direction because one man over a decade ago took a chance. He took a chance on a league that was on its knees and said, you know what, I see something special here. And we are continuing to do that. I feel so grateful to be part of it in the way we're going in the future. And that's where it's all at. It's going to be really exciting. And again, is there still more growing to do? Absolutely. Are there learnings along the way? That's part of being a pro league. Absolutely, there's learnings of things you can do differently and change going forward.
We are 2 for 2 on butchering sayings as well. And I almost butchered even butchering sayings. If my bike had wheels, it'd be my grandmother. There we go. We're 3 for 3. Good news time, though. The New Zealand Breakers sold. Now, I believe sold to a local ownership group as well. Now, the sad part of this is, of course, Matt Walsh parting ways. The almost entire front office has been taken out. For those, maybe aren't as close to the league as others, there are a lot of people in that front office who are incredibly dedicated to the Breakers. They've been through the good and bad, and it is very emotional. As much as sold for a good price and a great sign for the league that teams are selling like this, it's always sad when stuff like this sort of, in a way, has to happen.
It's true, and there had been a shrinking of the Breakers front office staff over the years. I believe when Dan Shamir was there, they had 32 employees, and I think last year Modi Mayor told me that the number of employees was down to 5. So this was all prep for sale and a way to save money for this proposed sale, and now it's been effected, and let's hope that the Breakers fans can benefit from this and restore that franchise to its former greatness.
Certainly so. Local players, local talent, get them in there and win a championship. You'll be all good. Sammy McKinnon, the surprise news from today is that Sammy McKinnon is out at the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. The guy's done a great job as an interim head coach multiple times, no longer with the Phoenix.
Yeah, it is a surprise. It is a surprise because obviously we've been talking about Sam McKinnon maybe next in line for a head coaching role. But if you actually break it down to what it is, Josh King came in as a new coach. Anytime a new coach takes over a club, they normally bring their own coaches anyway. So this is a chance for Josh King to go out there, and from what I understand, he's going to bring in at least another one of his assistant coaches or a coach that he knows and try and move forward with that. We all talk about the next line of head coaches, and Sam McKinnon's name should rightly be there. Am I surprised? Yes. But am I also surprised? No, because this is Josh King's first full year now. And now he gets somebody that he knows, whoever it is, to be alongside him in that journey.
And it's a tough situation for Sam McKinnon because, as we say, he's done such a good job when he stepped in interim roles, but now he's got to find what his next move. He's coaching in New Zealand now, and he's done a good job with that program, getting them off to a decent start. But it's a tough business. It's competitive no matter where you are in this NBL ecosystem, whether you're a coach, whether you're a media member, whether you're a strength and conditioning coach, everything is highly competitive.
Speaking of highly competitive stingers, the graphics world, they're very expensive to make. And finally, we get to roll the most expensive one in the game. Hools is hearing it's taken you all the way to the last one to bring it back out.
We've kind of touched on it all, to be fair. But no, in terms of, we've obviously got some coaching places up for grabs. I mean, you mentioned Sam McKinnon. I do believe he'll be a head coach in the NBL sooner rather than later, or hopefully gets that opportunity. From what I understand and what Olgun's reporting as well, the Brisbane Bullets will have a coach before free agency, which makes sense. It's hard to go to free agency
Certainly
and try and sign players when they don't know who's going to be the coach. Olgun also, we talked about on the marketplace today, Kendrick Davis rejected the latest offer from the Adelaide 36ers. Matt Weston flew to China to try and get that done. So they're going to be looking around for some other import guards, whether that's a new face or an old face. And from what I understand around the Phoenix as well, I believe they are going to be picking up the option on Nathan Sobey and running that back with Sobey, Glover. So they've got a nice little core there. And now Josh King gets to have his imprint on the team going forward.
Josh King certainly establishing his dominance over this roster at the moment. We're going to cut to a break. Plenty more coming up next. Welcome back to NBL Overtime, all thanks to basketball.com.au. You can get all your Aussie hoops news, NBL, NBA. Otherwise, if they have another league, they'll probably add that one to it as well. Peter Hawley, Derek, which of the stories here that jump out to you the most?
It's the bottom for me. That was an awesome moment. Joe Ingles with his family, they did it very well. The Timberwolves, an emotional one, and something about Aussie basketball. Even though they're over there, we still feel that impact here. It was beautiful.
And I'm going over there as well with March Madness, Procter and Condon. Condon, a lot of NBA noise. Keeping your eye on him.
Florida as well, doing unbelievably this year, all thanks to Condon as well. But let's get into our way too early predictions. If there was ever a way too early prediction, this is probably the earliest I've ever seen them done. So Derek, you kick us off.
I'm going hard here. I'm going back-to-back with Sydney. Do you remember my prediction coming into NBL 25?
I remember
it didn't work out that well
I
for
remember
me.
a couple of
Anyway,
predictions, Derek.
Sydney it is. MVP. Matt Hurt. I'm going out on a limb. I'm not going safe. I'm saying they'll re-sign him and bring him back. Defensive Player of the Year, Will Magnay. Would have won it easily this year had he stayed healthy. Most Improved Player, Bullquall. It's time to get healthy. It's time to step up. I think his second season under Brian Gorge will be way better. And, of course, the ever-dramatic Adelaide 36ers. They are going to be noisy in the next coming months.
I like it. And again, I thought we were all going to go down the Hawks path. I thought, because it's easy to say the Hawks are going to win it again, so I went different. I'm going with what I said in the preseason, the Perth Wildcats. I think they've got enough money now to go and get some massive pieces, even without Bryce Cotton. MVP, I chose someone who's already signed. He's already
said he would be out of the league by now.
He's already re-signed. You picked a guy who might not be here. I've gone with Casey Prater, the Brisbane Bullets, if he picks that up. Shea Illy's won the last two. Why not? Most Improved Will Hickey. If we see that last...
He can't be Will... What? He can't be Most Improved Player.
It's a regular season award, Derek. It's a regular season award. So if he continues that MVP type level, then he will be Most Improved.
Can Mum and Dad stop arguing?
You should be.
Thank you.
You should be.
Let's jump over to mine.
From winning that.
Here we
award.
go. Champion, the Sydney Kings.
Yes.
Their front office management is too good to not right the wrongs of last year. I think Andrew Bogut's a pretty big inclusion as well as assistant coach there. The MVP, Xavier Cooks. He's got a point to prove. I think he's jumping right back in there. Wani Swakalo Bullock as Defensive Player of the Year. I think this final series is just giving him that extra level of confidence, and you've got to be in the front of mind for the people who vote on this stuff. And Most Improved, I think Karim Lopez is in for a massive season. And the most off-season noise, I think Sydney, with Bogut in there, he's got a great connection to NBA talent. I reckon they're going to make some massive signings.
I get it, and I'm glad you backed me up with the Sydney Kings choice. I think if they kind of reset, they're smart, bring in the right import point guard, they'll be fine.
And you know what? I reckon I'll walk to Perth if they don't make the championship game, Derek.
Thank you.
I hope you got some walking shoes. Hey, trend is your friend before we get into a fight. How many times is it going to bounce? 1, 2. I swear to God, that was bouncing like 14 times on some of the previous ones. But anyway, let's get right into this. Now, obviously, it's the end of the season. No markets available. But if you're going to be looking towards the futures markets, the championship market, then the one to look for is, of course, the championship market. But you've got to watch the free agency signings because sometimes those pesky little traders upstairs, they're a little slow. They're not following basketball.com.au. But if you are, you can usually find a couple. If a team lands a big name, sometimes it takes a little bit of reflecting the odds there so you can catch them sleeping. That's all we got for now. One little more segment coming up after the break.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Welcome back to the last segment of NBL 25. It's almost all done for the season. And of course, let's get into under pressure going into the off-season in this one. Let's fly through it. We're going teams, players, everything in this one. Let's kick it off. Number 5, the Brisbane Bullets. You fire your coach, there better be someone in waiting, Pete.
There should be. And again, we talk about it. I thought it'd be done by now. It has to be a big fish. See what they get.
Derek, Xavier Cooks. Terrible off-season for him. A lot of drama, especially towards the end. He needs to repay his team this coming season.
High character guy, made a mistake. He'll learn from it. He'll be better in NBL 26.
Bryce Cotton, he's been in the safe confines of the Perth Wildcats for so long. Whenever you move, you've got to keep your same standard wherever you go.
And I think he will be one of those few guys that won't bother him. He'll absolutely continue that greatness wherever it is, and we'll find out soon enough where it is.
His greatness is so entrenched in his soul now, not a problem.
Entrenched in his soul. There we go. I'm ready to run through a brick wall.
Thank you.
Melbourne United, back-to-back Game 5 championship losses. Now, this one, we said last year, they're going to be hungry and they're going to come back for it. Credit to them. They were 2 possessions away from really winning 2 championships, but alas, they did not. I'm not going to give the saying another crack, but they did not win it. Pete, how do you think they're going to go next year?
For sure. I mean, you look, they've only got a couple of players signed, some key free agents they've got to start to weigh up, and we'll see what kind of splash they make in the off-season if they're around the mark again. They always are. They've always proven to be one of those clubs who's going to be there at the business end. They just need to get over the hump.
Dean Vickerman, he's the spine, he's the brain. They're always going to be around the mark.
Number 1, the Perth Wildcats. You could not secure the signature of Bryce Cotton, but it means you have a war chest of money. Also, no Keanu Pinder in that team. There is a lot of money that they have to make a roster around what John really wants, who's still in the infancy of his professional coaching career, just 2 years in. Not all is lost for the Wildcats. They're going to have a lot of fun this offseason.
I know that we're hurt right now, but you think about it. Take off whatever the number is, 1.2 for Bryce that they were going to potentially offer, maybe more. Marquee level Pinder, if Ty Webster doesn't come back. You've got upwards of $2 million to spend on the rest of the roster with Doolittle there. You're in good shape.
Their coach is continuing to improve. He understands the league. He has good contacts in America. With that money, they'll be able to replace Bryce. On a performance level, not possible, but in terms of endearing the Red Army, definitely probable.
Well. Derek Rucker was probably sitting here thinking he'd gotten away with it, Pete. But let's just throw back to some footage from all the way at the beginning of the season.
Oh, boy. And I said the Sydney Kings are going to be in the championship series next season. This was before they even started to add more free agency pieces. That team right there,
Why?
that team's going to the championship series. I will walk from Brisbane to Perth if they don't make it into the championship series.
Now, I am no podiatrist, Derek, but the shoes that you are currently wearing, as nice as they look, and they're made of suede and some other sort of animal.
Oh, boy, that was unfortunate.
I've got a proposal for you, bro.
Yeah.
I know you want to do something and you need to do something. You need to be punished heavily. So there's a couple of Perth streets in Brisbane. There is a Sydney street that's just north of Brisbane CBD and a Perth street that's south. It's about a 7.5-hour walk. I think you should live stream that on your Instagram in the off-season.
I like that.
You like that one?
I like that
It's
one.
a 7.5-hour walk. Do it. Put it on live stream.
Very good.
How about my
Barefoot.
suggestion?
Which
With nails underneath your feet.
3 to 5 years prison for treason against the NBL. That's what I say, Derek. What do you say back?
Oh, boy, enough.
Hey, thank you, everybody who's watched, everyone who's commented, done all that sort of stuff. It's been a fantastic year with it all. To everyone behind the scenes, thank you very much. We will see you in NBL 26.